Namaste everyone. Let me see all of you. Okay. Thank you for being here this evening in Mumbai. It's 9:30 p.m. This is an exploration of merging two ancient teachings. The reason they are ancient, because Advaita, non-duality, is an ancient teaching. And the Course in Miracles believed to be from Jesus is an ancient teaching. You see, I had studied an inner chamber Tibetan course many years ago. And one paragraph mentioned that the teachings, though the same, change in terms of presentation over time with the evolution of the individual consciousness. So they get represented in a way appropriate for the next generation. Teachers and masters of both traditions are like postmen in the days prior to email. The postman delivers the message like a letter, and you open it, read it, and it's the contents of that letter that impact you. Gratitude arises to the postman for delivering the letter, but the teaching is not mistaken for the form, for the postman. The teachings are of the highest order. You see, there was a very interesting incident in North India. There was quite a renowned sage, and he had to give a lecture in front of hundreds of people. Now, the organizers thought that they would test this man, this sage. So what they did was, they did not set up any platform for him where he could address the audience. They kept him on the ground, on a mat, at the same level. And when he walked in, he took stock of the situation. He saw everyone around him at the same level. He thought about it for a moment, and then he raised an objection. He said, I will not talk on the ground. I need you to put up a platform, and only then will I begin my talk. So you see, tongue started wagging. The organizers said, look at the ego this man has. He wants to act as if he is higher than the audience, and he insists on talking from a height. And the sage heard all this and kept quiet and said, until this platform is made, I will not start. So they had to put this platform together. Eventually, he sat on it and he started by saying that many of you in the audience must have thought that I have such a big ego that I'm insisting to sit on a higher ground than all of you. But that is not so. When you have come here, you have not come to listen to me as an individual. You have come to listen to the teaching. And the teaching is what is looked up to, not the form of the body. So please do remember that. That was his message. So I am going to begin by reading out some passages. I have selected about 9 or 10 of them. I will read out one passage and I will put it in light of the context of Advaita from a very pragmatic and practical view on its impact on daily living. This is not theoretical knowledge. It is knowledge which has the power to transform one's conditioning, sometimes gradually, in fact, many times gradually, sometimes suddenly. Advaita, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, means not to, Advaita, not to. What appears as two is not really two. Through this teaching, the veil of duality is lifted. When the veil of duality is lifted, we no longer see from the eyes of duality, but from the eye of knowledge, which is the third eye of Shiva. There's a change in seeing situations in life, events in life, relationships in life, and our relationship with all these. It is literally a new way of seeing. So the first passage is, knowledge is not the motivation for learning this course. Peace is. This is the prerequisite for knowledge only because those who are in conflict are not peaceful. And peace is the condition of knowledge because it is the condition of the kingdom. Knowledge can be restored only when you meet its conditions. This is not a bargain made by God, who makes no bargains. It is merely the result of your misuse of His laws on behalf of an imaginary will that is not his. Knowledge is his will. If you are opposing his will, how can you have knowledge? Knowledge is not the object of this course, peace is. And my teacher, Ramesh Balsekar, would never tire of saying that all that a human being wants, whether he knows it or not, is peace, peace of mind. And to understand this peace, we have to understand God's will and the will of the individual, which we will explore very soon. So, to understand his will is to accept his will, to accept God's will. Because for many of us, we are in opposition to this will. So, this is the first paragraph I read, and I understood this teaching must be so close to Advaita because peace is the focal point of this beautiful teaching. You see, someone asked Ramana Maharshi, how does one know a sage is a sage? And his reply was, by the degree of peace that you feel in his presence and the sense of respect that you feel for him. There is no other criteria. And peace of mind in daily living means having peaceful and harmonious relationships, not just with people, with ourselves, with our thoughts, and the events that transpire in our lives. So now the fundamental design of Advaita comes into the picture. The design of life, as we all know it, is duality. Left and right, black and white, up and down, front and back, rich and poor, pleasure and pain, me and the other. These are the polaric opposites in duality, and within that spectrum, life is lived. But what has happened is that the me and the other, through conditioning, through collective conditioning, through individual conditioning, has become me versus the other, in opposition to the other, me separate from the other. And the teaching aims to heal this vision and restore it back from me versus the other to me and the other, which is the basic design of duality. And that basic design got distorted into separation. And how is that healed? We will come to that. Please do understand that this is the primary focus is your relationships with others, whether they are your family members, your friends, your colleagues, or the stranger you meet on the road. Because all of them are aspects of your relationship with yourself. Then follow Him in joy, with faith that He will lead you safely through all dangers, to your peace of mind this world may set before you. Kneel not before the altars to sacrifice, and seek not what you will surely lose. Content yourself with what you will as surely keep, and be not restless, for you undertake a quiet journey to the peace of God, when He would have you be in quietness. This quietness is the quietness of the mind. It represents the stillness of the thinking mind of the ego that is always living in the past or going into an imaginary future. In me, you have already overcome every temptation that would hold you back. We walk together on the way to quietness, that is the gift of God. Hold me dear, for what except your brothers can you need? What except your brothers can you need on this journey? They will show you the way. We will restore to you the peace of mind that we must find together, you and me. You, me, he, and she. The Holy Spirit will teach you to awaken unto us and to yourself. This is the only real need to be fulfilled in time. Salvation from the world lies only here. My peace I give you. Take it of me in glad exchange for all the world has offered but to take away. Everything in life is transient, temporary, fleeting. Everything one is identified with. Pleasures and pains come and go, successes and failures, objects. How can peace be found in that which is transient, fleeting? How can our brothers walk together with us, our brothers and sisters? That is what this course is about, and that is what the teaching of Advaita is about. You cannot enter into real relationships with any of God's sons unless you love them all and equally. Love is not special. So, this is where I would like to explain things in clarity, as Rameshji explained to all his students and devotees. You see, when you accept that everyone you meet in life, whatever they think and do, is based on two conditions: their genetics, their nature, and their conditioning, which we have received from day one, from our parents, the religion we were born into, the geographical area we were born into, the economic environment we were born into, the school we went to, and so on and so forth. We have received a bombardment of conditioning since we were young. And based on that conditioning and our genetic blueprint, we are inclined to take decisions a certain way and feel things a certain way. Now, when we accept that everyone bases their thinking and decisions on these two factors, which were not in their control, then is it truly their doing? Two aspects which were created by the source, consciousness, God, put whatever name you want, not created by the individual. If this fundamental principle is accepted, that just like me, I say and do things based on all this background which God created, so must the other. So if this acceptance seeps in, what happens is that the unnecessary baggage of hatred, blame, condemnation, malice, jealousy, envy, guilt, and shame, pride, and arrogance all drops away. When I accept that everyone is an instrument of God and nobody truly does anything, then where is the question of hating and blaming someone? We may not like an action, by all means. This does not mean we have to accept everything and be a doormat. But the understanding is that we are a brotherhood of instruments through whom God's will functions. And the example I use often, which my teacher used, is the gadgets in a kitchen. Each gadget is designed to produce what it is programmed to and designed to. The toaster cannot make juice. The toaster produces toast. The juicer produces juice. The fridge keeps the food cold. But what is there in common is without electricity, they would be dead objects. We tend to look on objects as objects with labels and names. And what we miss is that it is the same consciousness, the same electricity that is running through all of us and through manifestation, which is an appearance within that consciousness. We miss this point, you see, because we are accustomed to looking at bodies as separate from ours. But we lose sight of the fact that consciousness is talking to consciousness. In this case, Consciousness is doing the talking through this body and the listening through that body. Without consciousness, we would be both dead bodies. So this teaching turns the vision in, back. That is why Nisargadatta Maharaj would call it reversing into the future. He called that for other reasons as well. But it is lifting this veil of bodies and separation and making you see that we have missed this most obvious point, that we are together because we are conscious. This is what the sense of separation has done. Even the person you don't like the most in your life, are you really separate from them? If the animating principle is the same, are you really separate? Is the electricity going into the toaster separate from the electricity going into the juicer? Or is electricity electricity? Consciousness is consciousness. And here we have distorted it by races, cultures which oppose each other, oppress each other, missing this fact which binds us all together. Now, what is the content of that consciousness? Is what is going on in the mind. The thinking mind is the ego. The ego is the identification with name and form as a separate entity. And the thinking mind judges and blames. This is good, this is bad. This one did this to me, I hate him. That one treats me very specially, I love that one. And all this dissecting starts happening based on what people do. And what this teaching is showing is that it is the sense of doer-ship which needs to be uprooted for a clear vision. And if one truly understood this teaching, frankly, the question of hate does not arise simply because can consciousness hate itself? If consciousness is all there is, can consciousness hate itself? When its very nature is love. Love for all there is. So the thinking mind of the ego, which is always turning cartwheels upon cartwheels, of involvement in situations, opinions about people, judgments about people, based on what they do, when that dialogue starts dying down, when the thinking mind gets quieter and quieter, because all thinking related to doership is dropping away, what happens is a still mind which starts radiating peace. What is peace? Is the absence of the thinking mind. The absence of the thinking mind is the presence of conscious presence, here and now, in this moment. If my thinking mind is not there, There's only presence. So this beautiful teaching shows you why your brother, as it says, is so important on this journey. Because if you heal one aspect of a relationship issue, let's say you have the issue of jealousy, and now you see things in a clear light, that issue of jealousy is going to be healed across all your relationships. The other thing is that the labels we put on people, actually, it appears that we are putting them on other people, but those people are arising in our own consciousness. So as Nisargadatta Maharaj's Guru Siddharameshwar said, that supposing you call someone a thief, and all the time you say, oh, he did this, he's a thief, he's been a thief from school, he used to steal this. Thief, 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 thief. Thief becomes the content of your consciousness, because that's within your own consciousness, the word thief is appearing all the time. So what is the dialogue in one's consciousness? What labels are we churning out consistently? Are these labels and words of separation and blame based on doer-ship? Because they are arising within our own consciousness. Every other is arising within consciousness. I am arising in consciousness, otherwise you would not see me. Am I really apart from you? It appears that way, yes. But every sound you hear, everything you see, everything you touch, everything you taste, isn't that all appearing within consciousness? That's why you know it. That is how intimate all this is with you. The person who pushes your buttons the most is God's gift to you. Because your reactions are yours, not that person's. So it is an opportunity to look at what we are reacting to. That is within consciousness. There is nothing outside you. That is what you must ultimately learn, for it is the realization that the kingdom of heaven is restored to you. For God created only this, and he did not depart from it, nor leave it separate from himself. The kingdom of heaven is the dwelling place of the Son of God, who left not his father and dwells not apart from him. Heaven is not a place, nor a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there is nothing else, nothing outside this oneness, and nothing else within. Advaita, not two. Not two. Remember this when you are troubled. Not two. The Holy Spirit's temple is not a body, but a relationship. Do you see how often this course is hammering at the same point again and again? And the reason is this. As Rameshji would say of his own teachings, he said it may sound repetitive, but the shell of the ego is so strong based on its conditioning that it needs constant hammering to crack it open. And then, once it is cracked open, you will find that you will be drawn to the teaching more and more, even though the shell is cracked open. And the reason is, once again, as Rameshji was asked, why do we keep coming back to you again and again when all you say is everything is God's will and nobody does anything? We know it now. Why do we keep coming back to it again and again? And his answer was, it is just like your favorite song. You want to listen to it again and again and again. It's that simple. This becomes the song of your life. This is the song that will be sung when you accept that truly there is no such thing as an individual will. It is all God's will. As we see in our scriptures, Leela, the play of God. Maya, the illusion that it appears that people are doing things. That is the illusion. Maya is the ego. Maya is the thinking mind of the ego. Or as Ramana Maharshi said, Maya is the me. Me, which is our mantra, me and my story. Look what happened to me. Look what this one said to me. Look what that one did to me. Look what God did to me. Maya is the me. How can you know whether you chose the stairs to heaven or the way to hell? quite easily. How do you feel? Is peace in your awareness? Are you certain which way you go? And are you sure the goal of heaven can be reached? If not, you walk alone. Ask then your friend to join with you and give you certainty of where you go. Where are we going? Nisargadatta Maharaj would say, we are going to where we came from. Where else? This brief span of a lifetime between birth and death. So making this journey together, me and the other. You see, Rameshji would refer to this as the original sin, according to him, in Advaita. The original sin is, I look at the other as an object and I consider myself the subject looking at the object. And then I start pronouncing judgment on the object. This person is like this. This person does this. This person says that. But I have actually usurped the subjectivity of the source, which is the ultimate subject. I have forgotten that just as the other is an object in manifestation, so am I. We are equals. And this is the original sin in Advaita. One object thinking it is the subject and therefore assuming the role of the pseudo subject and pronouncing judgment upon everything and everyone. And when this is realized, my God, this is a fundamental error in seeing. That seeing heals it back into a relationship of balance. The two are now back in balance. Peace is restored to the relationship. This is called seeing with equal vision, seeing with even vision, seeing with the eye of singularity. The relationship is healed. You start accepting the other person's point of view equally. It is as important as yours. You may not agree with it, but you accept that your point of view is based on your genetics and conditioning, and the other person's point of view is based on his genetics or her genetics and conditioning. So therefore, as I say, you can agree to disagree on certain things without being disagreeable. Whereas we take our battles and stop talking to people, you see, because they don't share our point of view. But that's a fractured way of living. Just because someone doesn't share your point of view, you stop talking to them or you start talking behind their backs. Maharaj used to say, never criticize anyone. Because to criticize anyone is to criticize the affairs of Brahman, consciousness. You know better. Forgiveness. Forgiveness recognizes that what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. This is a very important aspect of this Course in Miracles as well as Advaita. So do pay close attention to this. Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. It does not pardon sins and make them real. So beautiful. It sees there was no sin. And in that view, are all your sins forgiven? Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred because he didn't do it. Therefore, how can you say, I forgive you? If I say, I forgive you, I believe you did something and then I forgive you. I have the power and authority to forgive you. The subject-object relationship is still in place. And what this beautiful, radiant book and teaching is doing is showing you that that is not true forgiveness. If you accept totally that nobody truly does anything, then as Rameshji would say, the question of forgiveness becomes as irrelevant as legs on a snake. And then he would say, true forgiveness, not forgiveness. The difference between true forgiveness and what we perceive generally as forgiveness. True forgiveness is forgiving yourself for wanting to forgive someone else for something they are supposed to have done. Please understand this. It is not a play of words. True forgiveness is forgiving yourself for wanting to forgive someone else. You will only want to forgive someone else if you believe they have done something. True forgiveness is forgiving yourself for wanting to forgive someone else for something they are supposed to have done. Exactly what it says here. Jesus on the cross did not say, Lord, I forgive them. He said, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You see? And while we still remain outside the gate of heaven, let us look on all we see through holy vision and the eyes of Christ. Let all appearances seem pure to us, that we may pass them by in innocence and walk together to our Father's house as brothers and the holy sons of God. Let me not be your critic, Lord, and judge against you. Let me not attempt to interfere with your creation and distort it into sickly forms. Let me be willing to withdraw my wishes from its unity, and thus to let it be as you created it. In love was I created, and in love will I remain forever. What can frighten me when I let all things be exactly as they are? You see, the most beautiful part here is in love was I created, and in love will I remain forever. All your imperfections, all your shortcomings which you feel you have, all the self judgment, the self hate, the self criticism, who created that? Did you? Who thinks they are imperfections? Many teachings say, love yourself, love yourself. But this point is overlooked. When you accept that all that you are today, no matter what age, 20, 40, 60, 80, is the result of aspects beyond your control, how can you hate yourself? Love yourself means this. You don't have to do anything to love yourself. Love yourself means just see things as they are, not as they appear to be. Again, each has learned the most he can at the time. Yet all who meet will someday meet again. For it is the destiny of all relationships to become holy. Yet all who meet will someday meet again. For it is the destiny of all relationships to become holy. You see, in the Indian context, there is a most beautiful word not explained in volumes called Rnanubandhan. Rnanubandhan, the cosmic debt of a relationship. Anyone you come across, you do because of the bondage. Bandhan, bondage. Every relationship in your life is on account of Rnanubandhan. There are no chance encounters. The people in your life you love, those you don't like at all, or the stranger who gives you a smile on the road. Rnanubandhan. This bondage is perpetuated when we view our relationships through the prism of doer-ship. You do this, so I hate you. And then what happens in the relationship? It becomes like a tennis match. Action and reaction, action and reaction. Your button is pressed, you react. Your button is pressed, you react. And this karmic bondage of action, reaction, endless action, reaction. The whole life is going and just reacting blindly. because I think someone is doing something. This bondage, the rina of this bondage becomes heavy, toxic, coagulated, sickening. So, how does one come out of this bondage? By simply accepting no one truly does anything. Then what happens? This compulsive need to react all the time starts dropping away. The tennis match cannot be played with one player. If the other one is no longer perpetuating the bondage, the game is up. So, since we don't have much time, I'd like to just touch upon one more thing, and then we can, if anyone wants to share, you are welcome to. I will take a look at the participants box and we can then do that. Is acceptance of God's will. It actually stares us in the face because it's our own experience. That breathing, we don't do breathing, breathing happens. Is it in our control? Is the blood coursing through our veins in our control? Is our heart pumping in our control? Certainly not in whose control. We are on this planet thanks to gravity. Is it our will? All these factors we have forgotten, and yet we try to exercise my will. You see, we have seen the effect the moon has on water, high tide and low tide. And our bodies are 70% water. Even our emotions are not ours. Even our emotions rise and fall and move up and down because of factors not in our control. How much is in one's control in daily life? You have no idea what you're going to see next, what you're going to hear next. You never know what the next moment brings. And basis that which it brings, you react. So, this delusion of control, when the ego realizes, my God, I'm actually truly not in control, it can get frightened because it's losing its identity. But when it happens, it's beautiful because there's a surrender to a higher force which is beyond intelligent, which is eternally wise. And then we find ourselves flowing with happenings in our life. Life becomes simpler and simpler and simpler. And that is why Rameshji said, life is imprisonment. Why? Because what was so vast has got confined to this body, this form. But what we have done is converted what is a simple imprisonment to rigorous imprisonment and made life hell for ourselves as well as others. How? By blaming and condemning and judging and hating. So this was a brief exploration to show how close these wisdom teachings are. And this thought came to me to share this simply because my first book, Pointers from Ramesh Balsekar, when it came out, just about, I think, 60, 70 small pages, I had received many emails from that time that people in the West wrote to me saying this message is so close to the message in A Course in Miracles, and we didn't realize that the Indian teaching of Advaita is so similar in terms of presentation. And this feeling arose to share this. I hope you all have enjoyed this. In fact, perhaps at some point in the future, there will be deeper explorations if this is received well. We'll see where it goes. And I think the message of A Course in Miracles and Advaita Vedanta will shine through more and more. We are living in turbulent times. We are being forced now to accept things are not in control. Even those who thought things were in control now have experienced it themselves. That the way events have transpired in the last few months, very little is in our control. Everything is changing. It's going to be a changed world in a few months. A lot of belief systems have collapsed about one's personal life, about work, about situations. This is the awakening. It happens only in times of crisis when what we hold dear to us starts falling away and we question this. It's traumatic. It is painful, these periods. Perhaps for many of us, in fact, for all of us, we have never encountered this before. It is a time of transformation. And as Rameshji would say, we cannot control what happens in life, but what we can certainly look at is our attitude to life. Okay. Yes, Holger.
Thank you. Thank you, Gautam, for being such a beautiful postman.
My pleasure.
And I feel the electricity. And even though I don't know if I'm a toaster or a juicer, I'm very happy. I just wanted to say thank you, and more I don't have to add right now.
Thank you.
It very deeply resonates in me, and it's beautiful.
Thanking me is like your left hand thanking your right hand. Okay. Yes, Sheena.
Hello, Gautamji.
Hello.
I actually wanted to talk to you for a very long time. In fact, I've done something silly before. I tried to ring in your office to say thank you. So please accept my thanks first and foremost. Your videos have really changed my life, and I can't stress how beautiful your messages are. So just I just wanted to say a big, big thank you. You have really, really changed me. And I don't think that's a debt I can never probably pay back. So
The
that's the
teaching
first
has
thing.
changed you. The teaching has changed
Yes, the teaching, like
you.
the postman has been brilliant. um, so the thing I wanted to ask Gautamji was that we said everything is planned, everything one does is depends on the genetics and the conditioning. But sometimes people do things which are not appropriate. Do you think the free will can also, they can exercise free will to change their actions, or free will doesn't exist?
Certainly they can. If it is part of their destiny, that will also happen.
But then everything, when they, whatever they do is, if we say everything is predefined, but still they can get the free will and think good for others and then take an action. Do you think they can do that, or or from our end we can just accept that that's the way they are and they can carry on doing their things? Am I confusing you?
No, you see, spiritual teachings are instruments of transformation. So, if one is destined to receive a spiritual teaching and be open to embrace it, then it will certainly lead to a different way of being. So, that also is part of the divine plan, you see. I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope that's what you're asking.
Yeah, it does. I think you're right. Yeah, I get it now. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the answer, Gautam.
Okay, take care. Yes, Oscar.
Hello, Gautam.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you. How are you?
Well,
Um, I have like a question. More than a question is something that has been moving inside me for a long time. Um, I've been doing the Course in Miracles for many, many years, and I also before that I was reading Ramana Maharshi, and the $1,000,000 question is, I'm sure everybody at some point has asked oneself this question: how did the ego come about? Now, I was very surprised. I took, after many years, I found conversations, talks with Ramana Maharshi, and it says very bluntly, it said, the self create the ego, says. And it went on and on, but I was like a bit, I wasn't expecting that. Now, the Course in Miracles, it says, in the universe, something like this. It says, in the universe where everything is one, rise a tiny mad idea when the Son of God forgot how to love. This is the explanation that the Course in Miracles gives to the appearance of the ego. Now, if God is the doer, if God is the doer, and the only thing there is the will of God, and I firmly believe that. I think maybe it was just the will of God, and because there is somewhere a dark idea that the ego is something bad, that because of all the things we go through when we identify with the ego, but at the same time you think, well, why not? Why? It's just that there is like, I have a resistance of thinking that God created the ego, but then from my tiny perception, from my little self, probably I cannot understand the purpose of what that would be. But what is your idea about this subject, please?
well, that's actually, you asked a very valid question. And yes, the answer is that God created the ego through the process of divine hypnosis, as Rameshji would say. You see, it's very simple. When a baby is born, up to the age of about 2, is the pure I am, the pure consciousness. Now this baby starts developing an intelligence that if I cry, my mother will come running. If I do something, something will happen. That is the birth of the ego. And then it starts thinking that I am the center because whatever I do, something happens. So the sense of separation gets created there. That is when the ego comes in through the process of Maya. What was pure presence at birth, which is in fact in India, in ancient India, in the scriptures, it is called Krishna consciousness, the pure baby consciousness of the purity of being I am, not contaminated by I am so and so. You see, as Rameshji would say, that supposing right now we pressed a button and your entire memory was wiped out, entire memory, there would still be one thing which is not wiped out, which is your sense of being, your sense of presence. Now, that sense of being has not gone anywhere and got replaced by the ego. Through the process of divine hypnosis, what was vast, expansive, became constricted. And the journey, which is the play of consciousness, is to go back to that vastness. That is the beauty of the human birth. It is only in the human birth that we can have this, because man is aware that he is aware. Homo sapiens sapiens. Man is aware that he is aware. We have the ability to separate our being from our experiencing. That is a gift. And that is what spiritual realization, enlightenment, awakening is, this journey back. And this entire journey from I am to I am so and so and back to I am is the play of God discovering itself. That is the beauty of it.
But sorry, I'm sorry. But why does suffering has to be involved in this coming and going back?
Because the ego has identified with things which is external to it. It has lost this awareness of I am. And it has become I am Gautam, I am Oscar, and then I have parents, I have money, I have a house, me. When that structure is disturbed, there's suffering because the ego now wonders, who am I? If all these things I'm identified and tell me who I am are now dropping away one by one, what is left? Who am I? That is the spiritual journey. You see, that is why it's one of pain, because what gets taken away creates a loss. A parent is taken away when you're young. An expensive object, your business is taken away. Something is lost. The ego feels, I have lost something. But the whole journey is when you see that whatever you identified with is temporary. It shakes up your world when something happens to it. What is it that is not temporary? What is it that does not depend on something coming and going? What is that which is eternal? Is the conscious presence which does not need anything else to depend upon. So the loss is felt by the ego, the suffering is felt by the ego, because it feels that I will die. Without this relationship, I will die. Without this, I will die. Who is this me who thinks I will die? That is the spiritual journey, you see. Therefore, it is a journey of loss, but a journey of loss of all that is not true.
It's like an exploration, I think. We're investigating duality.
Yes, in fact, all losses are a gift, because they wake us up out of our slumber, you see. Okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Michael.
Hello, Gautam. Thank you very much for this time you spend with us. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, I think I understand the teaching. I've read Ramesh's books, your books. I've done Zen for 15 years. Well, you know, the works. But I sit here, listen to you. I understand, I feel peaceful. And then life happens all the time, you know, and everything is just like erased completely. And then I come back to a book and I'm, all right, I got it. But then I go out there and bam again, you know. I was wondering if it's just me or does this happen to everybody?
Oh, no, I think you're not alone in that, you see. But Michael, you see, the thing is, this process is irreversible. The consolation, if one can call it that, is that even if there's that recognition when one is with the teaching and one thinks one has lost it in the daily living, it is bound to permeate into daily living. Sometimes it is gradual, sometimes it is sudden. You see, this whole teaching leads us to the aspect of witnessing. When we accept everything as God's will, His will, as it says in Course in Miracles, no one truly does anything, and so on and so forth, what has happened actually is that observing, which was done by an individual, by an ego with a sense of doer-ship, has now changed to witnessing. You see, when you no longer pass judgments, you are witnessing. The quality of witnessing in your life, in your daily life, whether at work, at home, will increase more and more. I can't really say increase because the witness is always there. It is the thinking mind with its judgments that has got overlaid on the witnessing. When the thinking mind gets disengaged, this pure aspect of witnessing shines forth in all its glory. So the fact that you're even drawn to the teaching, the sheer fact that it resonates with you, because some people may be drawn to it and reject it. They may not agree with the concepts, but obviously you're drawn to it, otherwise you would not have read these books and so on. So that part has to be trusted to take you home. As Rameshji would say, why consider your glass half empty? Consider it half full. It is bound to impact one's daily living.
Thank you. Thank you.
And a name like Michael is remind me of Archangel Michael, which is the I am. He who is as God. You know, the sun, in the Indian scriptures, the sun was worshipped in ancient India because it was the only visible God, the light of I am, the sun that shines its light equally on everyone without judging anyone, because it's its nature to shine.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we'll take one more. Maybe one or two more. Yes, Harish? No?
Hello.
Yeah, is that Harish?
Hi, Gautam. Yes, Gautam, how are you?
Good, good.
Yes, this is the first time I've been on a live Zoom meeting, hearing your teachings. And usually I've been listening and hearing to a lot of videos of your teachings, especially with Nikhil, as well as, yes. So I had actually written on your website, put up a message in the questionnaire also relevant to the information and some, idea that I wanted, about a question that I answered to the question that I had. And we're currently, actually, we are grieving. There's a loved one whom we have lost. and it was due to a negligence of a family member, and it's a bit heavy. So what actually happened is that because of the negligence, the person we love is no more with us. So I wanted to ask you, I've heard videos of yours where you say it's God's will, and there are also these people around the people, who have caused this negligence, who feel that probably it's karma or probably it's God's will, and for them the life is just going on normally, whereas we are the ones who are suffering. So how can people be merry, and at the time when we are living in sorrow? So what is your analogy and your answer to such a question?
You see, Harish, I'm very sorry for what you are going through, and only a parent would know that. But I've often received this question, where parents have lost their children in accidents or through some untoward incidents and so on. You see, what compounds the basic pain of loss, what is already there because of the loss of the child or whatever, that basic pain is what one is having to face. But what we do is we compound that by not accepting it as God's will. You see, when we say God, we are not referring to a God who is an individual like us in heaven. In Advaita, God is consciousness, the source from which the manifestation has appeared within itself. So, to keep it simple, let's take the good and bad. Let's take Mother Teresa and let's take Hitler. Okay? Now, what this teaching says is that if you say, how did God create Hitler? How could God, all compassionate, create Hitler? What we have not seen it as, which is objectively, is if God didn't create Hitler, who created Hitler? Someone more powerful than God? Is that possible? You see, so what this is saying is that all the polaric opposites of life come from the same source, from one source, and these are polaric opposites. So when this is accepted, you accept that in your life, we've all had so many painful events in our life. They happened, right? Otherwise, they would not have happened. So the fact that that happened means to accept it. Now, thereafter, once we accept that this was the will of the divine, this was the will of the Lord, use whatever name you want. It happened. It was not something I dreamt that would happen. It happened. Now, thereafter, I do exactly what I think and feel I should do. If I feel I have to take action against someone, by all means I do that. If I have to take someone to court, for example, for negligence or whatever, because that is daily living. We think and feel and we have to act upon that. But the acceptance of this loss will lighten the burden we are carrying, which is already so heavy. Because, when we keep pointing fingers at people, they may have been instruments for the loss. There's no denying that. But our focus is then just, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. And that's the mantra going on in the mind. But when we accept that this was meant to happen, there are others who have lost children, now have become one of them. Then you start seeing objectively. If you need to say something to the people, take action, you will do it in an objective light. That is the only difference. This teaching will not take away your pain. This teaching will make the pain pure. That is what happens.
Okay, but if this is something that any parent has to accept, and the people who are part of this incident due to which we have to face the circumstances, and if everybody feels that it is God's will, then there will nobody ever who will be judged upon, because then they are just going to get away with saying that, oh, it was meant to happen, it is God's will.
But that
Whatever happens in the court, it happens.
that is
Of
not
course.
true, right? Because we all live in social structures and we thankfully have laws in place, and that will all come into effect and people will be held accountable. This is not a green signal to, do everything the way you want.
Yeah, I understand. I get it.
You see, as Rameshji would give the example of a murder being committed, there are various possible outcomes. Sometimes the murderer is caught, sometimes the murderer is not caught, in spite of the best efforts of the police. Whose will is that? Then the murderer is caught, but sometimes he is let go because of insufficient evidence. Whose will is that? So you see, as the Bhagavad Gita says, all you can do is act. The results of your action are not in your control. All you can do is act, and act you must. But what happens thereafter, you have no control over it. So this is what gets understood. So when we go to court, for example, if you feel that's appropriate, but who knows what the outcome is? It may be years of protracted legal battles and you don't know the outcome. But you still have to do exactly that you think and feel you should do. Someone would ask Rameshji that why did God create handicapped children? What harm have they done? We all get so pained when we see handicapped children. And he would answer by saying that I understand what you're saying, but why don't we ever question God? Why have you created healthy children? We take it for granted. But if God is what is consciousness, it includes duality of every conceivable kind. We still make this error thinking God is an individual and we fix all attributes. He must be kind, he must be just, he must be this, he must be that. That is what happens. Then we build these expectations in our image we have created. You see? So
Sure.
I do hope that since you are drawn to this teaching, in fact, I'm quite sure it will give you some solace to deal with the pain. And you're more than welcome to ask questions again at our regular sessions if you feel inclined to, or just be part of it.
Sure, of course. This was helpful enough. Thanks a lot, Gautam. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think we are done with an hour and a half. I'm sorry, I don't think I can take more questions now. I would like to end by reading one paragraph by a very revered Indian sage called Shirdi Sai Baba. I think he passed away in 1918 or so. And you see, he is very popular across the length and breadth of India for all the miracles. He performed. But he would keep saying, I give people what they want so that they may want what I truly want to give them. And he was referring to enlightenment and self-realization. So I'll read this passage, and then if we can just be together in silence for a couple of minutes, I'll put on I think it's the gallery view so I can see all of y'all, and then we will end this session. Thank you for being here. I've been given an opportunity to share this, so I'm extremely happy. And I know that whatever is meant to happen will happen. unless there is some relationship or connection, nobody goes anywhere. If any men or creatures come to you, do not discourteously drive them away, but receive them well and treat them with due respect. God will be certainly pleased if you give water to the thirsty, bread to the hungry, clothes to the naked, and your veranda to strangers for resting. If anybody wants any money from you and you are not inclined to give it, do not give it, but do not bark at them like a dog. Let anybody speak hundreds of things against you. Do not resent by giving any bitter reply. If you tolerate such things, you will certainly be happy. Let the world go topsy-turvy. Remain where you are. Standing in your own place, look on calmly at the show of all things passing before you. Demolish the wall of difference that separates you from me, and then the road for our meeting will be clear and open. The sense of differentiation as I and thou is the barrier that keeps away the disciple from his master, and unless that is destroyed, the state of union or atonement is not possible. God is the sole proprietor. Nobody else is a protector. His method of work is extraordinary, invaluable, and inscrutable. His will be done, and he will show us the way and satisfy our heart's desires. It is on account of Rnanubandhan that we have come together. Let us love and serve each other and be happy. He who attains the supreme goal of life is immortal and happy. All others merely exist. They live so long as they breathe.